Now we're going to move into spread footings, and this is going to be broken up into two tutorials. First, in this video, I'm going to show you how to place spread footings under your grate beam, which we just created. And then I'm going to show you how you can put it under interior columns or actually exterior columns for your porch. Or if you have some strange elements like shear walls coming down outside of your building, then that's totally fine. I'll show you how to do that as well. So before we actually place this element, I would recommend spending maybe 5-10 minutes going over your grate beam and making sure that everything is sort of, diligently modeled. Here you can see that my grate beam is sort of at a strange place, and I probably would want to move that to the interior of the columns and then just have maybe an architectural floor there. So I can use the align tool for something like this, aligning that center line, and then I would have to double click or modify the boundary of my floor. Again, I'll probably use the align tool, and what that will do is just create a really clean model so that when I go to something like a 3D context, you can see at the back here everything's sort of lining up. So this is when I would spend 5-10 minutes just looking over things. So I'm not going to modify this. You can see this is sort of error. This is not bad. I mean, you could technically do this, but these would probably be moved over to be under the columns. So let's go ahead and talk about spread footings. Now, we basically have one continuous spread footing, like a snowshoe or a sand shoe, that basically goes right under our grate beam, which we just put in, and it goes 18 inches on either side. It actually should go the width of the grate beam on either side. And for this class, I think our grate beams are all 18 inches. The method I recommend using is going to structure and going to floor. We're going to use a structural floor. You can use an architectural floor as well. It doesn't really matter. But we're going to choose our foundation slab, or our concrete slab, which we've already created, and we're going to duplicate it again to create a, we can call this spread footing. So I need to edit the structure, and I'm going to make it 18 inches. This is the depth of the spread footing. We can keep this as concrete, and we can keep this as a structural material. We can hit OK. Now let's check a couple things. We have our constraints are at the ground. We actually want it to be at the bottom of the grate beam, because the top of the spread footing is going to begin at the bottom of the grate beam. We want our height offset to be 0. And now we can start to sketch. Now we could draw this in. If you have an easy building, you could sketch it in. But what we really need to do is create a slender sort of offset line that goes around the grate beam. So the way I would recommend doing this is by using the pick line tool. And you can tab over here, and eventually you'll get to your walls. But if you keep tabbing over, you'll actually get to your foundation. So here you can see at the bottom of the screen, it's a chain, and if I move a little bit, this is the one I want. This is my foundation slab, and I'm going to click this, and now you can see that it just draws in that perimeter again. And again, this is why I recommend spending 5 minutes just going over everything, making sure it's well done, because we're starting to clone some of these elements so the mistakes will propagate. So we're not done yet. What this would do is it would just fill this in with a slab. We actually need to offset this on both sides of our slab, right? So that we'll have the edge of our floor here and the edge of our floor here. So we can use the offset tool. I'm going to change this to 18 inches. And actually, a really nice trick is to turn this copy off first. If you hover over your line again, if you got the line, the chain done successfully, you can tab over, and when you click that, you can see that the original line disappears, and this is all perfectly offset 18 inches from your grate beam. Now we need to run that one more time, but we need to change the offset to 54 inches, which is 3 times the width of our grate beam, and we have to turn copy back on. And now if we hover over somewhere on the inside, we tab over, you can see that when I click it, now we have a chain, and Revit will recognize that it actually wants this to be a hole, right? So it'll only look at between the two perimeters. And now if I hit check, you can see that because I have a grate beam below this here, and this grate beam was put in sort of incorrectly, you can see only that other edge. If we go to a 3D context view here, you can see that this was actually done correctly. We can't see it in the ground, and that's because I haven't applied a view template. This is when I would go and make sure that my floors are actually set to transparent. So I'd go back up to floors, and I'd turn the transparency up to 100%. And that's going to keep the pattern. It's going to keep this pattern fill. But now if we go into something like a shaded view, you can't necessarily see the floor. It just shows us where the grade beam and the spread footing is. So I would keep this in hidden line for now. And again, go back and just adjust some of these elements and make sure this is all done.